So the big questions in life, like how big is the universe, and is there a God, and how did we all get here, and what happens after we die, etc., etc. Are they complicated questions? Do we have to keep on studying and looking and searching and wondering? And the answer is no. And I'll explain why. Also, as well, we really do have to realise that the answer to all these questions is plain and obvious. It's plain and obvious. What we're doing is, people in general that is, are trying to understand too much. Too much, to the point where we're going beyond what is obvious. What I mean by that is this, I'll explain. We have been created, and it is blatantly obvious. Honestly, it really is. It's so obvious. Dare I say, anyone, any kind of half-witted person should realise that we're created. It's so obvious. It's actually ridiculously obvious. Now, why is it then that people think we aren't created? If it's so obvious, which it is, why do people think we weren't? What's going wrong here? What are people stumbling over, as it were? What's going on? Well, the simple fact is this. Again, it's plain and obvious. God himself is invisible. It's that simple. He is invisible, and he lives in a world we cannot see. So therefore, people think he does not exist. It's that simple. And this is why they're convinced that this plain and obvious thing is a line that they're just not going to stay on. They're going to go beyond it. Beyond it, and start looking out into space and far and beyond and here, there and everywhere, and when really they're missing the point. They're missing the point. God has made it plain and obvious that he exists by what he's created. If you look at the organisation, the superhumanly written program, as it were, of DNA, the abundance of life, the exquisite detail, the technological masterpieces in biochemistry. It is technology. It's technology. It's biology technology, if you know what I mean. It's a technology that's so advanced, it's beyond our understanding. Look at the human brain. Obviously you can't look at a brain, but you know what I mean. Look at the human brain. It is unbelievably sophisticated. In fact, it's so sophisticated that top computer companies, tech companies, are looking at how neurologically, how neurons deal with data, etc. I won't go into detail, but this processing power of the brain, this mechanism, the way that when we get up in the morning, we open our eyes and we just look around, we don't even think about the enormous calculations that are taking place in our brains, is unprecedented. In fact, it's so good, it's completely taken for granted. People will marvel at computers and all kinds of technological gadgets, but they will ignore the incredible power of the brain, and not just the brain. Look at all the organs. Look at all the musculoskeletal organisation of the body. I could go on and on. The chemistry, the biochemistry of the body, the way all our veins and all our our circulatory system, the way blood is pumped around our body, the way we breathe in oxygen and oxygenate our bodies, the way we eat, the way people interact, the way we talk, everything is absolutely amazing. Don't let people try to convince you that this is some kind of fluke that happened over a very long period of time through processes of evolution. It's utter nonsense. The only way that process, in inverted commas, works is in people's imaginations. It is actually impossible. Everyone knows it. You know, everyone really knows it is absolutely impossible. There's no evidence for evolution. It's utter rubbish. And what I'm saying is this. You see, people come up with these kinds of things because they can't see God. They take the obvious. They take the plain power that's in creation, that's obvious to see, and they think, no, this must have happened another way. Simply because they cannot see God. It's that simple. And other questions like how big is the universe and where did the universe originate from? Sorry, just having a cup of tea there. Again, it's very simple. The universe is not infinite. It's not infinite. It has a size. Of course there is. Because it's a thing. It's something. So it has a size. It's that simple. It's just extremely large. And also as well, people will talk to you about distant starlight and all kinds of things about the universe. It's billions of years old and all this kind of stuff. Now don't get fooled by all this. Now what I will say is this. There are certain mysteries, even in the Bible, about creation, about time frames, certain time frames. I mean, I know it says 7 days, but you know, when God first created the universe, there was no sun. So how could you have a day? So there's certain mysteries. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But one thing is for sure, it was created in 7 separate stages. You know, you can call them days, whatever you want. Maybe it was 7 days. Who knows? But what we're dealing with is we're dealing with a creator who can do anything. He can do, it's clearly evident by looking around you, it's clear that God can do anything and nothing is impossible for him. And we shouldn't lose sight of that. So, keeping that in mind, we've got to realise that the universe was created. Created. Not is creating. You see, people in secular science, they like to say that the universe is infinite because it's still growing. It's still, so that totally dismisses the Bible, because the Bible says the universe was made, full stop. So it's something. It has a certain size. It's not complicated. It's not complicated in that sense. So it's clear to see that we're created. It's clear to understand that the universe is exactly that. It's just the universe. It's not some infinite thing. Yes, it's enormous. There are certain mysteries about the universe which we don't really understand. But this is a key point that I wanted to get to in this video, because I'm going to use an analogy from the Bible here. Now, in Jesus' time, when Jesus appeared in the world and was made man, made flesh, some people didn't believe in him, and Jesus said to them, why is it that you don't believe in me? Surely you'll try and believe what I say, because I speak the truth. But then he said, if you don't believe in what I say, at least believe in my miracles. At least believe in my miracles. So in other words, don't start arguing over complex matters that you're making up. Rather, just keep it plain and simple. Do you see my miracles? Then believe. That's basically what he was saying. Don't get caught up with it, because Satan likes to mix men's thoughts up. It says so in the Bible. It says that he is the confuser of men's thoughts. So he'll have people running around in all directions, as long as they don't go in one particular direction, which is towards truth. So, like Jesus said, keep it plain and simple. Don't go running around in all directions. Just believe because you've seen my miracles. And in the same way, we shouldn't be theorising about the universe too much, about going on about this, going on about that, and how did it form, and all this secular science, and all this kind of abstract nonsense about this, that, and the other. We just need to keep it plain and simple. God created the universe. Yes, there's some mysteries there and wonders. There's no harm in wondering, but I think sometimes people can get too involved, and the secular world, has definitely got too involved to the point where it thinks it can find the answer. It's gone beyond the obvious. I mean, have you ever heard the phrase "looking beyond the obvious"? I mean, I remember once I lost my sunglasses, and I remember looking around the house thinking, where on earth did I put those sunglasses? Looking around for a while, and then I walked past the mirror, and yeah, there they were. I'd slid them. You know how you slide them back off your eyes and put them over the top of your head? They were there on my head. I just forgot they were there. And it's the same. It's the same kind of principle. The world is created. We don't have to think we've lost something. We've lost our way. We're lost on this tiny planet in the middle of the universe, or wherever we are, tiny speck. Well, who are we? Where are we from? It's all answered. It's all answered. Don't get caught up in that. It's all answered. It's all plain and simple. It's dead plain. It's dead simple. Yeah? The answer is found. People don't have to explore the universe, go far out. And other questions like what happens after life, after death. Again, people have gone beyond the obvious. Now, for example, without sounding too crude, now, at the end of the day, when we die, what happens to us? If we weren't cremated, then we would be buried in a casket and put in the earth, and we would decay. That's the end of human beings. That's how God's made it. We go back to the soil from which we were formed. And if you look in Genesis, if you go back to Adam and Eve, God did say to Adam and Eve, he said, you will go back to the soil from which you were formed. That's after we had sinned by eating from the tree of knowledge. And that's exactly what happens. Here's another very obvious point as well. If you went back in time, imagine you're in a time machine right now and you're going back in time, you probably say 100 feet up in the air or 200 feet up in the air, and you're looking down over your town or city or house or wherever, and time is being played backwards, and it starts going faster and faster backwards, and then suddenly you see your house being disassembled, okay, because it's reverse, it's going backwards, and then suddenly your house is no there, and there's either trees or there's grass or whatever. Then all the houses around you start disappearing. Then the whole town or city starts to disappear, and then you're going back and back and back. Then what would happen is, as you moved from that spot and you followed the main groups in history around, you'd see the same thing. You'd see civilizations come, and then they would they would get smaller and smaller and smaller, and go back and back and back and back and back and back. Let's take a city like London. Once London was just really a very small place with a bridge, and it grew to what we know it today. It's a fact. It's just a fact. It's a plain fact. So if you keep on going back and back and back and back and back and back and back, what you will end up with is less and less people, to the point where you'll have no cars, no trains, no roads, no buildings, and 2 people. there you go. Adam and Eve. That's exactly what happened. It's so obvious. Again, it's just completely obvious. You know, we have 7 days in a week. 7 days. Comes from the Bible, comes from Genesis. You know, again, it's such an obvious fact, but it's there. There's other obvious points as well, which I won't even go into, because I don't want to start boring people, but you can see that it's dangerous to go beyond the obvious. Losing sight of the fact that we are created, losing sight of the enormous intellectual power that has gone into creation is absolutely insane. You know, people would say sometimes, I've heard some people occasionally say, oh, don't commit intellectual suicide and believe in the Bible. And gosh, people just could not be more wrong. Don't commit intellectual suicide and don't believe in the Bible. Because to believe that there is no creator is mind-bogglingly, unbelievably and utterly contradictory to what you see around you. It's so insane. And don't be fooled by people who in this world who think they're clever and they're intellectuals. You know, we do have some clever people in the world, but they are looking beyond the office, and they want to wear their own intellectual crown and be God, as it were, rather than just be plainly obvious and say, look, here it all is, the answers are already here. Okay, so that's how I'm going to end this video. Just remember that the answers are already here. They're obvious, they're right in front of you. Okay, all the best.